Namaste and good evening. On behalf of Sahitya Akademi, I heartily welcome Sukrita Paul Kumarji and Vinita Agrawalji at this Asmita program, which is being conducted under Sahitya Akademi's now very well-known Webline Sahitya Shrinkhala or Webline Literature Series. Sahitya Akademi's Asmita program is a program for writers in search of collective identity and especially for women writers. So today, as I said, we have with us eminent women poets writing in English, Sukrita Paul Kumarji and Vinita Agrawalji. Both the poets will be in conversation and will recite their poems as well. On behalf of Sahitya Akademi, I heartily welcome both the poets as well as all the connoisseurs of poetry who are watching us on YouTube Live. While introducing both the distinguished poets, I first come to Vinitaji. Vinitaji is an eminent English poet, editor, translator, and curator. She has 4 poetry collections to her credit, besides a few edited and co-edited anthologies. She is the poetry editor with Usawa Literary Review and has contributed a monthly column on Asian poets on the literary blog of the Hamline University, St. Paul, the United States of America, in 2016 and 17. She judged the RLFPA Poetry Contest in 2016 and co-judged the Asian Chaz Poetry Contest on the other side in 2015. Besides, she served on the advisory board of the Tagore Literary Prize. She is the joint recipient of the Rabindranath Tagore Literary Prize, Gayatri Gamash Memorial Award for Literary Excellence. Her poem won a prize for the Moon Anthology on the Moon by Tall Grass Writers Guild, Chicago, 2017. And recently, her poem won a special mention in the Hawker Prize for Best South Asian Poetry. Hearty welcome, Vinitaji.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And our another eminent poet participant is Dr. Sukrita Paul Kumarji, who is an eminent poet, critic, and academician. She has published several collections of poems in English, besides edited, co-edited, and translated books to her credit. She was a fellow of the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Shimla, and an invited poet at the International Writing Program, Iowa, the United States of America, and Hong Kong Baptist University. Honorary faculty, Dural Center at Corfu, Greece. She has been a recipient of many prestigious fellowships and residencies as well. She is the Writer in Context series editor with Chandana Dattaji, being published by Routledge, United Kingdom, guest editor of journals such as Manoa, Hawaii, and Muse India. She held the Aruna Asaf Ali Chair, University of Delhi, and served as director of UNESCO project, The Culture of Peace. Sukritaji, hearty welcome to you too.
Thank you very much.
At the outset, I would request Vinitaji to recite one of her poems and begin recitation and conversation session.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you, Sahitya Academy. It's an honor and a privilege to be on this platform and read my poetry along with Sukrita. And a very, very good evening to everyone who's watching this live, and hello to everybody who's going to watch it as a recording later. So I thought I'd begin with a poem that serves like an introduction of who I am. Nothing like poetry to do the job. So this one's called Where I Come From. I come from the sands where words sprout like cacti when girls are born. I come from the ochre autumn-hued earth, baked dry under a fierce sun, where grit and wind needle the eyes, where storms compel women to live inside tombs of veils. I come from a place where dusk turns into a seductress by night, lying velvety warm on bohemian linen charpoys. I come from the land famous for making puppets, both from wood and flesh. The wooden ones entertain children, flesh puppets entertain men for life. I come from a geography where girls embroider silence, unfurled quilts of wordlessness, vast like star-studded desert skies. Their quietude as deep as the space where tears are born, high as the walls that keep history in, subtle like the rivers that roamed these plains once, gurgling, buoyant, ghagra-clad girls, now untraceable, lost forever. That's where I come from.
Lovely, beautiful.
Thank you, Suprita. Thank you.
I think, Vinita, the fact that you started with a poem like this, and this is really not a very subjective, obviously not just a subjective introduction, but it's almost like an introduction to the gender, of women, basically. And so I immediately changed my format, and I thought I would also start with then a poem which I feel also deals with this kind of thematic, I would say thrust. Thematic thrust is the same. And I think many of us are constantly engaging ourselves with the whole idea of articulation of identity as a woman. And then that gets into a collective. And I think as, it's the angst in a way of a certain kind of collectivity, which was for ever so long was totally marginalized. And there was no room for articulation or expression that would come into the public domain.
Right.
So I think we need to go into the variety of it as well all the time and see the heterogeneity of what this I of a woman is. Not EYE, but just the identity I. Anyway, here is a poem that I would like to read, which is as part of my volume called Country Drive. And I call it Women on a Motorbike. Sisters and daughters, even mothers, are hurled into daily abuses and jokes, trapped in muscular gaze, frozen as soft targets in epics, dolls in cinema, excuses for duels, cause for battle in the past and the present, possessed as furniture, items of jewelry kept in vaults in the royal cellars of history, while Sita greets Savitri, singing songs of captivity, shedding tears of loss and regret. The two women on the motorbike, Lal Ded and Akka Mahadevi, whiz past through centuries, multiplying in numbers as also in Shakti, each one searching her own path, her own tune.
Lovely, lovely, Sukrita. I love the imagery of those two girls whipping past on the motorbike. And yet you've encapsulated all the stereotypes that women are often boxed into. The dolls in the movies and the mythological characters that are so stereotyped in our culture. So that was a very good, what should I say, a very complimentary poem on gender.
Yes.
And I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
The next poem that I'm going to read is a very short poem. It's titled Gift. It's a personal poem, but also it seeks to find the universal in the personal. It's about the loss of my father, but it's also about the loss of anyone that, any beloved that one might have experienced in life. Gift. It is a gentle shape, this white moon my father gave me the night he passed away. It hangs under the window every night, a farewell gift. Leaves the skies quietly at dawn to slide into my throat all day. Some nights it returns, chipped, halved, sliced, imitating life, scarred like the face of pain, but always there, like a presence that's never left.
Beautiful, very beautiful.
Thank
I think this is a very special relationship, the daughter and the father. And one needs to have a lot of courage to actually articulate this in the context of a poem because it's so deeply personal. How do you put it out there? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to be able to find words for that. And I think you've done exceptionally well in being able to find just the right vocabulary and just the right idiom. I think that's a better way of putting it, the idiom. In fact, that reminded me of another poem which really, this is to do with mothers and daughters.
Oh, lovely.
And, yeah. So I thought I'll read that immediately after this one that I've read. Mothers and Daughters. It's an old poem of mine, but I still feel, as though I relive these moments when I read the poem. In the wardrobe of my child today, I found my baby journeying into adolescence, away from innocence buried deep in the middle shelf, behind heaps of vests and underwears, innocence lying crouched and discarded in rolled up garments, too small for her now. Just the other day, but that's a year ago, on her birthday, she was in this skirt, so small, so frilly, and a t-shirt with butterflies flying out of its fabric. Now, so garish, Mama. That, my child, was your own frolicking little being flying with the butterflies, a full bud now, ready to burst and express herself through menstruation and breasts, a body twisting and turning into new forms, disconnecting from old clothes, locating fresh autumns and springs, the deep blue skies, unknown directions, pathless holes, and distances with no horizon, sifting and picking her own roots entwined in mine. She grows her own branches, acquiring her own shadow. I see it all. The wide open wardrobe, unblinking eyes, my mother with her shadow, I with mine, and my daughter discovering and stepping into hers. All the three shadows are alike, and the umbilical cord unsevered.
Beautiful, Sukrita. That was really evocative. It's like all three generations are sort of in the same, facing the same conundrum and figuring out their own identities, which is at the end of the day just one. Beautiful.
Yeah,
very well expressed.
Thank you.
The next one that I'm going to read is titled, I Tell the River That I Shall Pray Again. So the tone of this poem is a bit, how should I say it? It's like it tries to be casual, but there's this deep vein of pain that underlines it. I tell the river that I shall pray again. For years, I've been trading promises with God, offering flowers for mercies, fasts for protection, money for more wealth. And now, it's not as if I've stopped praying, but something's muted over the years. When I fold my hands at the altar, I'm thinking the flowers in the vase need to be changed. The brand of incense leaves too much ash. The silver needs polishing. The frames need dusting. Cremating you and returning to the raven blackness of our home, I fastened the urn of ashes to a clothesline outside the house because it was bad omen to carry it inside. Nothing epitomizes waiting more than a boat on the shore or an urn of warm ashes tied to a tree or a clothesline. The river is the end to the wait, the final quencher of thirst. Tonight I lie porous. Tomorrow the river will consume the ashes and fill me with prayers again.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Absolutely beautiful. I think the serenity of the poem is what carried me along with the river. And the kind of point of identification that comes between the worshipper and the worshipped. I think that's the crux of it. And also the urn becomes a symbol in a way of not just death, but of continuity. And that's the beauty of it all. Thank you, Vanessa. It was beautiful. And I in fact, I don't think we did no planning. We had absolutely no planning in the program.
No.
But immediately when you're talking about the river, my, dialogues with Ganga come alive to me.
Oh, wonderful.
And I thought I should read little bits. I have been reading these dialogues with Ganga for quite some time. And I will not read all of them because it's a huge package that has become now. And what has happened is that as I have been writing, obviously a lot of things have been happening in the context of pandemic, in the context of pre-pandemic times, and now, can I say post-pandemic? I hope I can.
Hopefully, yes.
So whatever has been happening has somehow creeped into my dialogues with Ganga. So in a way, it is how should I put it? Historical, sociological, poetic archiving of that, material. Anyway, I'm just randomly going to read little bits because these are little bits. And I'll read something from the middle. Oh, Ganga, how does your noisy surface with kaleidoscopic patterns, restless shapes and wobbly colors reflect the steady flow of your deep and long waters, carrying mountains of silence across the plains, unseen by unmoved hearts, built with rocks and stones, Ganga. That's one.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Another one. The emerald green of the river waters is the green of the forests softened. The blue is that of the skies, and the brown that of the mud carried to the plains, O Ganga. With many a million corpses and ashes in your belly, what of the color of death, O Ganga? But death, you confirm, has no color. It is transparent, like truth.
Wow, beautiful. That's a lovely simile.
That was so lovely.
Thank you. In the din of the river, the sound of the universe vanishes, and echoes of demonic silence rise from within the mind as confessions from within. O Ganga, I am ready to perform my life all over again.
Lovely.
I will read two more small pieces if you don't mind.
Please.
You know what, O Ganga? I always knew, even before I was born, that one day I would dive into you with my heavy baggage of names and labels, theories and formulae and definitions. And then, O Ganga, soaked in moonlight, I would emerge on the other side of you, redeemed of my load, to begin life all over again, without theories, without formulae, without definitions.
Very deep.
One, which is, this is the one that I wrote actually, one was in the middle of the pandemic at that time. The world is coming to an end, O Ganga, not with an atom or nuclear bomb, nor with an earthquake or floods, not with a sudden jolt, but as a gradual spread, first of fear, then of asphyxiation. The war with the deadly virus has begun. Say if you have a solution, O Ganga, give us signs for the survival of the species. Or do you too wish for our extinction, just to breathe afresh? Yes, we get it. The flow of life must continue, not choke. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. I found this very ingenious, the way you've addressed, matters of the pandemic to the Ganga. That's something very unique and very novel. And I love that line, your green is the color of forest softened. So beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful imagery in all your Ganga poems. And also there were very deep reflections of life and the philosophy of existence and what have you.
I don't know, Vinita, if you also feel that I think poetry becomes a medium for meditation in a way.
Indeed.
And, when one is reflecting and when you get into that, call it meditation or a certain focus, I think something from within comes out which otherwise cannot. Otherwise, in normal conversation, it hardly ever comes out.
I completely agree with you. It's definitely a deep form of meditation where you dredge out thoughts from somewhere deep within and you don't even know that you had this inside you. But when it's out in the form of a poem, you realize that it's come from a deep space somewhere inside you.
Yeah.
Is that why both of you are so keen on economizing your diction? Remarkable imagery is there actually, but the mastery your diction, it is so economical.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
is one of the remarkable features of both of your poems.
Thank you. I was just going to say that please come back to us with your comments as well. We don't want you to be silent over here.
Yeah. And your sensibility, I think this sensibility, the third sensibility, because the two of us are involved in this. And you as a witness, if your comments come in, that'll be really nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly. And like Sukrita said, this is quite spontaneous. We haven't planned our poems. We didn't know what Sukrita had chosen to read.
True that.
And I found it so serendipitous when she also talks about the river and the urn of ashes and death. That was almost a great parallel. Excuse me. The next poem is titled Wallflower. So it's about dredging out reflections from childhood and sort of bringing them to the fore of life as it is today. Wallflower. A heavy millstone grinding wheat to flour surfaces from childhood memory, my senses sandy. Odd, that the oldest memories are by far the youngest. Strange that it is light that withers us to shadows. I've picked out your hands from underneath stones and brought them to my head to help me become myself. If I cry too little, strange fires consume my chest. How long will I blink back visions of things no longer in view? God knows in which hour of the night flowers fall. I can make flowers. Seeds and soil can make flowers. The flowers are always there. It's the monarchs that I miss.
It's the monarchs. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a downright rejection, but it's a logic that is built up in the poem.
Yes, the need for some companionship somewhere.
Yes. It's beautiful, lovely.
Thank you.
I would like to take you into a dream world now. You know, in the sense it's, I don't know whether the dream is more real, in fact, sometimes, you know, but also because it takes you into the subconscious and so on. I have been very fascinated with the idea of dream catcher. And there was a time when I would collect dream catcher, you know, the beautiful feathery, you know, thing that you hang by the side of your bed, so that the good dreams are sifted from the bad ones, you know. So anyway, I call this poem Dream Catcher. I must reach the forest in time, before the break of dawn each day, to pick some dreams scattered in misty darkness. I must reach before the sun crackles through the leaves of the trees on which dreams pile up, perching on the branches through the night. Dreams half dreamt, fully dreamt, and those yet to be dreamt, like babies born and unborn, crying out for attention, making weird faces in sleep. I pick what gets my fancy, bits from my wrinkled past, the shadowy fragments of future, mixing in twilight, droplets of dew, ready to vanish with sunrise. Each day, I come home with a bag full of dreams that drip through the day for me and all. Each night, I wait then for the new dawn.
Lovely, very, very lovely. Very lovely. This is much beyond dreams. Sorry? You were saying
Lovely
something?
indeed, yeah.
Yes, the imagery was lovely. And I love the idea of the fly cat, the dream catcher. Beautiful. And I like that line very much. Dreams of the future, like unborn, like an unborn child.
Yeah.
So beautifully conceived.
Thank you.
The next one is titled Apology to a Tree. It is indeed an apology to a tree. I am very committed to writing, poetry on the environment and those kind of subjects. So this is an apology to a tree. It's from my book, Two Full Moons, so I'll read it directly from the book. Tree, lampshade to the sun, wrestler of winds, the central artery of bloom. I apologize to you for double-sided axes, chainsaws, stump grinders, fingernails, compass needles, knives. I apologize for fire, for wood, and then I apologize for the ashes. I apologize for the morbidity of counting rings once you've been sliced. I apologize that you died to build stations at the back of beyond where trains never stop. And I apologize for the sneering big stations where they do. Every inch of glossy mockery of your shining leaves. I apologize for the heaven that couldn't guard you, for the earth that couldn't hold you, for the chill longer in your arms, for the shrieks of fun no longer dangling from your branches. I apologize for selfishly devouring your fruits and for seeds that do not make their way back to the soil, for not understanding the language of flowers, for not recognizing the wisdom in shedding leaves, for the wounds and scratches on your bark, for the pinched cheeks buried inside your pale cambium. I apologize for breathing as I sit on a stump. I apologize for the homeless jays, sparrows, menas. I apologize for still having a voice in the midst of this silence and for not having a voice at all.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think there has to be a collective apology, because the way we've gone on and on, and this I is again a collective I on behalf of humanity, as it were.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Indeed.
beautiful, very beautifully done. And I think we all need to really say this prayer every day, to remind ourselves, of what we have done, the devastating way we've, created for ourselves a certain environment, which is repelling us now. It's absolutely hard to accept it. Anyway, talking of trees, if you read a tree poem, why will I not? Right?
Awesome.
So I have quickly opened this tree poem of mine, one of them. I also have a lot of tree poems, as it were, generally more to do with forests and so on. But this one in particularly, I call it Guru, right? Trees are yogis, standing erect on their roots, exuding an aura of unrelatedness. Each one and content, swinging proudly in the silent music of the gentle breeze, meditating into thoughtlessness and blowing spiritual breath into every little leaf on its being. At noon, it throws its cool shadow for the earth to rest in peace. But the yogi does not participate in his glory. The tropical summer cannot comprehend its glorious freshness. The tree shoots upwards in an aimless search, its height giving it a security in the soil. The distant exuberance of the sun is dimmed by this yogi. I have one in my compound. I inhale its philosophy, power, light for my own roots, branches, and leaves.
That was so gorgeous. It resonated line to line with something that I read earlier. And you took such a close lens view of the tree and such a compassionate, loving view. I really, really loved it.
Yeah, compassionate as well as superb in thought. Lovely it was.
Yes, indeed.
Your themes are infectious, Vinita. Your themes are infectious.
No, it's you who have this, this treasure box of poems on every theme that you can respond within minutes to any theme. So the next one is on the water crisis, and it's inspired, it's an epiphany from a poem written by Dante di Stefano. And Dante's poem is on abused children and the kind of psychological scars that they bear when they, come to classrooms and schools. And when I read that poem, I felt that the earth itself was a scarred child and a traumatized entity now. So this is for the earth that's losing itself after Dante di Stefano. Write about shrinking spaces. Write about the color green. Write a line of chopped trees. Write a symphony of broken dreams. Write yourself an optimist. Write about grandma's earth. Wells in whose waters you could meet your eyes. Feather touch hand pumps that sprung fountains. The jugalbandi of rains and tumescent ponds. Write about making love. Write yourself nostalgic. Write about now. The unstitched bellies of lakes, white once the last skin of water disappears. Summer crisscrossing powdery topsoil, imitating the open lips of death on an old mother's face. Write yourself vetoed. Write about Madhav who marries thrice. I'd just like to tell you that this is actually a real-time, real-life case in Maharashtra where the women need to fetch water from great distances and it's too much burden for one woman to take care of it. So the man actually marries thrice so that the burden of fetching water is distributed, made easier. Write about Madhav who marries thrice, each bride a water bride, fetching more water. Write about women who welcome co-wives, who put lumbago before self-esteem. Write about the dictates of water. Write yourself polygamous. Write about Kalidasa's Meghdut, whether we'll ever know a messenger like it again. Dark, dense, moist, generous, giving, godlike. Write about lynching reservoirs dry. Write yourself parched. Write yourself anhydrous.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I think it's again to do a lot with the whole idea of how do you choose to write on what, right? And writing it itself is empowerment in a way, you know. It's and that's the beauty of also poetry, because we talk of poetry as being irrational, but I think it's most rational. It's a very deep logic of creation, you know. It's a very, very deep logic that goes into the creation of a poem, because you basically work out, it's not just the sequence, but also the knitting of thought that happens.
Bare truths that one kind of comes out.
Yeah. Yes. And you come out with some truth. But yes, I have to follow you as you are. So I will read a couple of my tsunami snapshots, right?
Oh, great.
So it has to do with water and that shape of water, which we know did what it did at the time when tsunami happened. And so I wrote every day, there was a news item in the, you know, whenever one would open the newspaper, there would be something which would be gruesome that would be reported. And I was picking up some true things and putting them into the form of a small poem, call it a poemlet, you know. So tsunami snapshots. When the waves relented and brought the baby back on the shores, snakes took over and created a lap of poison to keep death out of boundaries.
How gorgeous.
To hanging like a coconut, the head stuck between the branches of a half-broken palm tree. The little boy on the lonely planet saw water below, swelling with corpses.
Graphic.
One more. The 9 whom Port Blair forgot on December 26th were the mad in the asylum, standing shell-shocked inside the locked ward. They gaped through iron bars and they saw the world go berserk, their locks and fetters freeing them from fear. But this was actually what I read about, you know, when the mad were left in the asylum, the rest of them went, you know. The staff went away and all of that, but these 7 people were there and they did survive, not 7, 9 of them, but they survived because somewhere they thought, oh, madness was outside, not inside, you know.
True.
And that kind of a vision, which was, I think it came out of some journalist's pen in some way, which I just captured. Because, you know, poets are very alert about that. Something
They should
that,
be.
something that hits you immediately as a poetic kind of a contradiction, as it were. And so it went on to this. Just one more, maybe.
Please.
Floating for 8 days without a shore in sight. Floating for 8 days without a shore in sight, the tree trunk, between the legs, her teeth biting into it, her hands clutching it, she, an island of fortitude, pulling the distant ship towards herself. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. Very graphic and extremely extremely poignant as well. Very lovely. So, so the next poem that I'm going to read is also on the environment, and this one is titled Explain This. It's a very, very recent poem. I wrote it in September. And I'm happy to share that this is going to be played as a video poem at the upcoming COP26 Climate Change Summit in Glasgow. Explain this. Lands maimed by croplands, skies gashed by power lines, trees usurped by roads. The hacking glue of desertification, a planet's broken palette. Irrevocable scattering of the gift of prana, mounting figures of those last to last. We witness through tight-lipped, narrow windows, species vanishing. In Vietnamese, the word for both tree and sky is Zan. Green and cyan in the same syntax, a colloquy for earth, life cherished against the bosom of a bird. Will our eyes get used to the ghosts of those no longer on the food chain? A paw print missing, a passerine never molting again, frogs sinking, the pyramid poorer.
Beautiful.
Acquiring enough pelt to nudge us, stir our conscience. A tibia fossil gathering moss and lichen, our hands empty.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. I think it's the seriousness and serenity of the poem. It really hits you because it actually, as it was very rightly put, that it's there is on the one hand economy of words, but the economy of words is so telling because it creates a lot of noise and destabilizes you. That's the beauty of the poem, I think, to shake you out of. And look, this time I was not doing it deliberately, and the poem that I had opened to read was a Vietnam poem.
Oh my goodness! Look at that. What is happening?
No, I know it's crazy. So these are again series, but then I'll just read two of them, the small ones. These are called Pagoda Poems, and this is when I'd gone for a.
Perhaps it is internet connectivity problem.
Sorry?
Just please continue, ma'am. This was some internet connectivity problem that occurred. But please continue. Please.
All right. Okay. So these are called Pagoda Poems, and I wrote these when I had visited Vietnam. This was a literary festival for which I was invited, and I was very happy to go there because there was poetry everywhere out there. So we visited a pagoda and master pagoda there. And this was inspired, this series was inspired by that particular visit. And I actually say that, inspired by poems hanging around the master pagoda near Hanoi, Vietnam. 1. 9 times over the word nothingness. 9 times over, the word nothingness emerges again and yet again in the 20-word poem by the master monk. The dragon, they say, descends into the sea searching for meaning and spewing jewels that become rocks, piercing into valleys of other rocks. Columns of light rise, dressed in stunning colors, devils dancing in step with gods. All in all, adding to nothingness and making meaning.
Lovely, lovely.
2. What is real? Image of the bird fluttering in the sky, or the one still in the gushing river, the wavy moon in the water, or the one above that is steady, parallel, forever. Thank you.
Beautiful imagery, beautiful. The moon up there and its reflection in the stream below. And I'm just aghast at the way our poems are resonating.
Yes, yes.
Aghast in a very
Thematically,
pleasant.
stylistically, and thematically.
Thematically and literally word for word, actually, in some
Yes,
cases.
yes.
Amazing.
Mm.
Beautiful. So I'm going to come back to a tree poem, but this is conceived differently. Obviously, trees outlive human beings. Some trees live for 300, 400 years, even more. So the thought occurred to me that trees are witness to our history. Trees have witnessed things that we, in our lifetimes, may not have witnessed as much as a tree that lives for 300 years has. This one's titled, When the Zafar Mahal Was Being Built in 1842. When the Zafar Mahal was being built in 1842, this Deodar would have been a sapling, growing quietly towards corrosive times. The Himalayan fir would be soundlessly groping for the memory of stones. The Burma teak, losing a battle in lending resolute patience to Buddhist monks. The mangroves of tidal plains, cowering thinner against steel and concrete. The Kashmiri walnut, acquiring ring by ring the dark lustre of Kashmir's frustration. Each tree a tower of silence, a mausoleum of words that should have been spoken.
Lovely. You know, Vinita, close to our house, there is a city forest. And this city forest is called Jahapana Forest.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And there came a time when I shifted into this area and I started going for walks there to Jahapana.
Right.
And it was in Jahapana that I actually, experienced the forest-like atmosphere and everything. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so it was said that the forest actually is, was actually visited by Tughlaq, Muhammad Tughlaq. And so one of the poems that I write is called Tughlaq. Right? Actually, Tughlaqabad Fort is there also.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so, and there's a mosque inside. And anyway, Tughlaq. Not on pathways, nor in parks and gardens, but in wilderness and jungle nooks, emerging from nights, a silhouette of life, tiptoeing on pathless stretches, bent with broken dreams and opaque visions, from the cracking ribs of Tughlaqabad, smoke balls from blind wells, disengaging from Barani's diaries, ageless, friendless, and distant, tales of murders and intrigues strewn on the line of horizon, echo in his ears each dawn. His steps measured and heavy, inching towards the ocean of meaning, where sanity drowns and madness triumphs. This is Tughlaq for us, right?
Beautiful. I love the idea of a city forest and how beautifully you conceived that into this poem. Lovely.
And in fact, if you don't mind, I'll read another poem.
Please do. Please do.
This is related with this in Jahapana. And this comes as a poem called Pilgrim's Progress. Right?
Okay.
Buried in the debris near the blind well in the jungle are 1,000 tales, nibbled by scurrying rats and infected by amnesia. Bits of tails peep out, as if sticking their tongues through fine slits in the wrinkled surface of the heap, hardening over time with more and more thorny creepers and shrubs gripping the forest in a net from which slip out dead voices, severed from their bodies, compressed sighs, rising occasionally as white smoke and bouncing as cold echoes against the walls of the deep black pit, spewing the romance hidden snugly of times immemorial in the tunnel built, as they say, from the bottom of the well to His Majesty's fort at Tughlaqabad. The flash of light, an end of the long night, slides down the spiral steps to kiss the mouth of the passage to the regal splendor at the other end, yielding fresh bodies for the voices and softening the earth to impregnate her with a million more legends of love for the forest.
Beautiful. That's a very rich poem. Very, very rich in terms of language as well as imagery and thoughts. Beautiful.
I think all forests are full of
Stories. Yes, indeed.
And actually, this I was reminded of by the poem that you read about, you know, how a tree absorbs a lot of history.
Yeah.
And we just need to have sensitive ears to be able to listen to those stories.
Indeed, yes.
And you can actually listen to them if you relate to a tree. Something gets evoked, you know, in the imagination. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, Sukrita, I was thinking, what's a poetry session without a love poem?
True.
So I thought
Go ahead. Lovely.
So I thought I would read
I will come out with mine. Quickly do it.
Excellent. So this is a very brief poem. It's just about 8 lines. So I've deliberately kept it like that. It's a love poem. It's called Wrap, W-R-A-P. Will you remember this life of clear skies, brilliant colors? How we ran our hands along the shape of walls, tracing it for shafts of air. Even gazing at each other felt adulterous. Our lips, the trembling cornices of brush stroke ceilings. Love, quartz embedded in granite.
Beautiful, beautiful, lovely. Intense, very, very intense. You don't have to write 20 lines to have this intensity, you know.
Indeed,
but
yes.
Lovely. So, mine is one of those Laila Majnu poems, right?
Okay, good.
And so I wrote this from the point of view of obviously not Majnu, but Laila. Right? So, and this is dedicated, it's called Laila's Call. It's dedicated to Mahmoud Abu Hashhash from Palestine, right? Oh, Qais, the eternal lover, if only you could come out, step out of your mystical yearnings, walk out of your longings frozen in verses, and see your Laila, hear her pounding heart, feel her lamenting soul. If only, Qais, history could release you, and geography could bind you, you camouflaged in clouds of love, traveling through time and space, century after century, blowing images of Laila into caves and tombs, you fettered in words and epitaphs. Laila stuck forever on the potter's wheel, rotating between the cups of your palms, your fingers chiseling and shaping her forever. But Qais, Laila is whole. As the complete circle of the full moon, a planet amongst planets, Your poems are the gurgling waves of the ocean, leaping to reach the skies and withdrawing merely with the reflection, tired and limp, on the surface of the placid waters. Love is a blessing, says Laila, not a curse. My Majnu, my Kais, says she, come to me. Fear not death. Your wish for immortality keeps us apart.
Wow. How lovely. What a lovely message.
Lovely, lovely.
So, what does
No,
Sahitya
actually,
Academy have to say now?
we began with Vinitaji's beautiful "Where I Come From" and
Yes.
read yet another two beautiful love poems. This journey which you hold is a sort of meditation. Was a lovely experience to internalize so much of the world and beyond in so minimal words and astonishing lyrical intensity. So, could we finish this lovely session with one poem by both of you?
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Vinita.
Yes, thank
Please,
you.
yeah, Vinita ma'am first.
So I'm glad that this is the last poem that I'm going to read right now, because it's a philosophical poem, and it's nice to end a session with, when you throw out thoughts.
I think there's an internet.
Yes, getting.
As I watched the
Yeah,
river,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
its opposite banks like pages of an open book, never closing. Watched the lone fisherman, alone in a drift mainstream, plagued with hunger until the next catch, a shallow wooden boat owning his life. If there exists a constellation of pain in my veins, then it's the one that shimmers like light on water. Here now, gone the next. Gripping darkness by the feet in murky depths, angling for the warmth of sunlight every time trees ruffle scars. True singularity is to row to the middle of the catchment at dawn, scan the horizon, see fire sluice its face with water, hear the silence of fish, forget that your feet shall ever touch dry land again, and know that the hazel planks of a damp boat are all the ground you have.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's in the spirit of meditation. And
Yes,
therefore,
indeed.
yeah. So I think, once again, as it was rightly pointed out, I think all meditation is also lyrical, because there's a flow in that, and that's the beauty.
Right.
I will end my kind of last poem would be, it has something to do with something that is very close to my heart as to how to cross all borders, How do you cross all borders? And I call it At Wagah.
Okay.
At Wagah, I love you the most. The border marked by the spectacle of stomping army boots, shining medals beating their chests into the rising and the setting sun. The day becoming night and the night day, when the guards on both sides change bang bang. I love you the most at Wagah, when the guns are raised to salute separation, division, and rupture. When the neighbor dies and wears the shroud, becomes enemy all at once. My friend, you go away only as a bird does, flying in the free sky, when lines of hatred rise against prayer flags. Wagah happens. And I love you the most because you are on the other side of the border.
How lovely.
Lovely.
That refrain of "I love you the most" at Baga is so beautiful. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite poems from amongst all that you've written. I'm familiar with this one.
Yeah.
Thank you for reading it today.
Lovely. I think this has been a lovely journey. I think through this 1 hour, it has been a delight. And thank you so much, Sahitya Akademi, for having given us this chance to have a poetic dialogue. Vinita and I have been talking to each other for a while now, but I think this kind of a dialogue is unique. It's absolutely unique. True. Because it is absolutely through our poems that we are talking to each other and talking to everyone. Thank you, Vinita. Thank you, Sahitya Akademi.
Thank you, Sukrita.
A poem full of thanks to Sukrita ji and Vinita ji and all our friends who watched us live. The beautiful program ends here, unfortunately. Thanks a lot for your poems.